It's YouTube Wednesday!
I'm making another foam mask because there's always questions, and they're always the same questions, and maybe I did not cover things as thoroughly as I like to. You have to use Loctite brand foam. This will not work with great stuff. This is not the time to cheap out. You have to use Loctite. Other foams will not behave the same way, and you will not get the same results. There are times to go cheaper. This is not it. Loctite foam. What is in the magic spray bottle? This is water. This is water from the tap here in the shop, which does not taste good, but it's water. It's just water. And then you have to put some plastic down so that it won't stick to stuff. I'm doing a werewolf, so I'm gonna do some parts on this, I'm gonna do some parts away, and then I'm gonna marry them together. If I have to do it again, I might as well do something cooler and bigger. This is a hard head form. Does it have to be super hard? No. You could probably use one of those styrofoam head forms, but cover it in at least one layer of Loctite foam and let that dry so that it's bigger. Styrofoam heads are not big enough. This happens to be a head of mine, or you could make your own Plaster FX bust. I have a video on that. I think I can get started. You wrap this to protect the plaster in plastic. This is basically saran wrap. This is just big pallet wrap. Just wrap this in plastic wrap of some kind to keep the porous foam from sticking to the porous plaster. I'm gonna over-explain in this one because I want you guys to be able to do this without questions or concerns. Now that a base layer is done, I'm gonna spray this with water. I added a turntable just to make applying the base layer a lot easier. Alexa, count down 3 minutes. It has been about 3 minutes and 30 seconds. It's very hot in Texas right now. It's very warm in the shop. So I think this is gonna skin faster. I'm gonna check it. I'm not wearing gloves. Nothing is sticking to my hand. There's a skin that has formed over top of the foam. If I rip it open and break that skin, then it's going to be squishy and sticky and get all over me. Don't break the skin. I'm just gently tapping, and I'm kind of trying to get these lines out, but I'm also doing a little bit of preliminary shaping. Really, I'm worried about controlling the shape of this guy. I know I'm gonna add another layer, but I wanna have this layer shaped first. You can just keep building up layers. I'm looking at between the eyes here, and see how I push it down and it'll stay? Now, you can't refluff it, you have to add more foam. I went around, I lifted up the bottom edge just so that's not a problem later. Right now, this foam is soft. You can tell it's squishy. It has a skin on it. If I break the skin, then inside is still very sticky. But with the skin on it, it's not. I'm actually taking the foam and I'm compacting it when I squish it together, and that's making it even harder. So it's gonna be a pretty dense product. It will not be flexible, it will not be stretchy. Be aware of that. I did prop this up a little bit so that I'm not fighting as much gravity when I do this next bit. I'm gonna do one more layer on these brows too. Alexa, count down 3 minutes. I'm putting down plastic so the foam doesn't stick. I'm spraying that plastic with water so the foam cures faster on this side. And I'm gonna spray out a pair of ears. I think I'm going to go ahead and spray out the top muzzle and bottom muzzle, almost like 3D printing. My timer just went off. Now I can start shaping these guys a little bit. Nope, still, see how it sticks to my finger? I don't want that. If it does that, you leave it alone. Give it another minute or two. It has been the allotted amount of time. Let's check. Yes, I have a decent skin on these guys, and I can shape. I don't want to lose track of where my eye hole is, you know? But I wanted a little more power out of the cheekbone and the brow up here. And I can just flatten that right back. So this is in the way, I don't want it, I'm just gonna flatten it out, and that will cure that way. I have a blue paintbrush. It's a little paintbrush. What's important is it has a rounded back end. It's not sharp. I should be able to use this to help shape foam. I'm gonna take off the paintbrush part, because that had Vaseline on it, and that's gross. And I should be able to just put some simple lines in with this brush end. Now I am sculpting marshmallow fluff, I understand that. Let's see how my top jaw is doing. These need a little firmer skin to peel them off and have them hold their shape. I don't want to mess with that for another minute, so let me give that a minute. But I can start shaping my ears. And I'm going to do a big ridge for the outer ear. And make sure that comes to a point. And I'm just going to flatten all this. I have a spot here where there's no skin. I have to avoid touching that. See, this is all skin, this is not. Upper jaw is now ready. Now it has a nice skin on it. I can easily remove it from the plastic and work with it off of the plastic. So I can shape that. You can just cut it with scissors too, because I want my jaw more open. Every now and then you go back and you check on stuff that you've already done. You're kind of babysitting it a little bit. This is much firmer now. And if I do this every now and then as I go, I won't be in trouble when it comes time to take this sucker off the form. I'm reminding this of what I want it to do by putting it up here. And I can stretch it. I love this stuff. I'm adding more foam. I'm going to make a nose. And I'm blending the snout in to the rest of the head. I have a lot of control with spray foam, because I practice control with spray foam. You might think it a waste of a can to spend a whole can just figuring out how thick you can get your lines, how thin you can get your lines, and what it takes. But I would rather spend the money and waste a can learning rather than destroy a project down the road because I don't have control of what I'm doing. Normally when you see me work on stuff, I use a lot of reference. But man, I love werewolves. So I've made a lot of werewolves, and I have a pretty good idea of how I want this werewolf to look. So that is why you won't see me use a reference sheet on this particular project. All right, this is all that I put on from the snout. I'm trying to make these look like those just little ribbons of muscle that happen on snouts. All right, so I can tell this guy is ready to go. This is a hot glue gun. I happen to have black hot glue in here because that's what I use the most here in the shop. So I'm using it. You can use any hot glue to attach these pieces together. One of the miracles of this material is that I had to step away for a minute and my ears are hard. You would think that you cannot reshape them, but with the application of heat, I don't want to melt that hot glue, I want to heat up this ear. Now it's soft again and I can reshape it. I'm gonna go a little bit more back with it. That's what I want right there. And now this will cool into that new position because this stuff is awesome. That's why. When you are taking it off of your head form, same thing applies. I can heat this up and stretch it out a little bit. Now that it's warm, I give it a little more of a kick out. There I have a very firm werewolf mask. I'm gonna warm it up a little bit, open up right here. And the foam, if it's off gassing right now, it's very minimal. There's no smell to it. It's a very fast reaction. This foam, it's good stuff. I'm gonna put it back on here so I can finish the mask up. I'm gonna clean my workstation and get ready for paint and finish. I'm going to base this mask out. I'm gonna do it in spray paint. Yes, this is foam. The only kind of foam that spray paint eats is extruded polystyrene and expanded polystyrene. Extruded polystyrene is the pink board foam and blue board foam, and then expanded polystyrene is the stuff with the beads in it. So those, no spray paint. Pool noodles, great stuff, Loctite, can all be spray painted, no problem. There's a lot of rumors going around about that and they're wrong. That has to dry. As soon as that's dry, I can start painting. Because this is not a flexible mask, you could use straight acrylic paint to paint it. I don't have that on hand because I don't use it a lot. I do use a lot of latex mask paint. I'm using my latex mask paint that I make, that I sell, that is 1/3 casting latex, 1/3 latex house paint, color of your choosing, and 1/3 distilled water. That's what I'm using. You could use this, make your own, or you could just buy acrylic paint from Walmart or the craft store. I am using a dry brushing technique for most of this paint job. I like the way that dry brush shows all of the detail in this guy. Like I didn't sculpt any of that mess. It's wonderful. Textures. I'm dry brushing. I'm gonna build up the color in layers. So I'm actually going to do a 50-50 gray and white now, lighter color. I'm gonna dry brush less of this on than the straight gray. Going with a little bit of magenta. Again, mixed with some of this white and gray. I don't want it straight, it's a little too strong straight. A little bit around the eyes to show that's thin skin. A little around the muzzle. Oh, inside the ears. Red. Put the red right on top of this magenta mix. I'll mix it in, but it won't be affected that much. This is a house paint formula, so it goes on lighter. This almost goes on pink, but it turns red when it dries. I put a little red inside of his ear. That was a bad idea, so I'm covering it up. Straight black. Again, this goes on like a dark gray, but it will turn black. I'm gonna go even lighter with my white and gray mix. Because I'm dry brushing, I'm getting almost all this paint off my brush anyway, so I'm not gonna carry a lot of that pink into my light color. Don't mind if I do. Werewolves are alive, and pink just shows blood under the skin. I'm getting more paint off my brush because I don't want to put a lot of this on. Let's start talking teeth. This time of year, you can pick up fake teeth at a lot of places. You can get them from Pumpkin Teeth on Etsy. That's where I normally get them. Pumpkin Teeth are awesome because I can just stab these into this foam. I'll make some hot glue gums around it and be good to go. What's great is these have a stabby end on them, and that stabs right into the foam. I'm just stabbing these in. Gonna reinforce these teeth with a little bit of hot glue. I'm making a werewolf. Oh, I love it. If you have a hot glue gun where you can control the heat setting like I do, and for stuff like this, you can keep a big bead of glue by putting it on a low heat, that's the way to go. Get you one of these. Just gonna wait a few minutes and we can start hairing this sucker. So this mask, actually it's getting close to Halloween. We are going to do a Patreon giveaway for this very mask. So this mask will get finished. I'll be sad to see it go because I actually really like it. But one of our patrons on Patreon will win this mask. We will pick them randomly. Yeah, Patreon giveaway. Good idea, Alex. Exciting time. We're now going to hair the werewolf. I have two types and they blend okay. This is a long hair that I've got. This is a hair weave. You find this at a wig supply store. You can find it online, but you want it to be sewn onto a weft. This is hair weave hair. This is 8-inch silver. You can find these on Amazon, but go to like a wig shop. Yeah, go to a wig shop. This is wool roving from a place called the Woolery. Hardwick top wool from the Woolery. It is a natural fiber. All of this is going to be applied with clear silicone caulk, 100% silicone. This is silicone 1 from GE. Get this at Home Depot. These masks have to be 3/4 masks because of just the way that they're set up in order to get them off of the head form, I should say. So because they're 3/4 masks, I'm putting real long hair down on the bottom, and that'll help hide that seam a little bit. And that's why I have this stuff. I'm placing the sewn edge just above the silicone, and then I'm pressing it in. I want the silicone to go between the fibers. That's what's going to hold this on. I'm doing the long hair here, and then I'll use the shorter hair to hide my seams. Okay, make sure all that's stuck. Now the way you use the wool is a little different. Pull it apart to find the length of the fibers. That's about the length of the fibers. And now I'm going to cut it in half. And I have a straight edge and a wild edge. Same glue, silicone. And I don't have to use all of this. And it's too thick right now. I have to spread it out. You spread it out so that silicone can get into all of it. If it's too thick, then it only lays on the silicone and doesn't really get in there. There we go. Now that edge is hidden by the hair. I'll go this way. We'll do a little more. Okay, that's that first row all done. Instead of cutting in half, this time I just cut the end off. I'm going to use these fibers longer so I can go a little wider in between my rows of adhesive. Hair has a direction that it grows, and I am thinking the whole time I'm working on this, what direction does the hair grow? And if you're not familiar, then some references, like animal references, would be a good idea. You know, on like which way is your hair going on your arm? It grows down this way. So if you do it on a monster suit and the hair grows this way, that's a little weird. And it's a little thing that'll pick up on and make it be less realistic. I'm not trying to lay down a ton at once because I want it to be precise. I want it to be right. Constantly rubbing to get silicone and such off my fingers. So I know from my YouTube statistics that most of the people who watch videos are not subscribed. I would appreciate it if you would take some time and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy watching monsters get made and such that we do on the channel. Also, I kind of enjoy spray foam masks, and you guys tend to enjoy spray foam masks. I have a lot of long projects that aren't as fulfilling. These are one day, boom, fun, done. I love it. If there's another type of monster that you'd like to see me make a spray foam mask of, let me know in the comments. That was pretty YouTube-y, wasn't it? The goal is for the mask to be stickier than your fingers. So you have to keep your fingers quasi-clean. Rue dips his fingers in water. I just think that's cheating, so I don't do it. And this, of course, has more weight, so it gets a more generous bead. I need it to hang here in the air. If you have the last of a material and you need to use it for both sides, just cut it in half. Don't measure, just cut it in half, because then it has to be enough for both sides. And I'm this much short. I'm just gonna turn the corner with it, and that's how we'll do it. I think you're constantly doing R&D. You should be, just learning what's the best material. And they keep making new materials. You have to keep testing. You know, you can't say Dick Smith figured out in the 60s that this stuff was best. Well, there wasn't a lot of stuff around that is now. Now this one, I went around the ear with all my runs. This one I'm gonna do a row down the ear, and I think it'll do the same thing. I just think it'll be easier than turning the corner. The great thing about hair and fur is it's pretty forgiving. You can use it to hide your seams and cover up your crimes. It's wonderful. It'll at least confuse the authorities. Okay, and see, I've changed my directions of my hairlines because the hair grows back from the face this way on big animals. If you were not familiar with werewolves and other critters, then I would highly suggest you have reference for hair direction, reference for color and thickness, length. To some degree, you can make it up because you're making a mythical creature. But to another degree, if you want people to believe it, you want it to look real, then you have to take a lot of cues from nature. And to do that, reference. Once I'm done hairing, I'll take this to the airbrush. I feel like I have a little more hair on this side, so I'm gonna do a little bit of hair in here. Before I airbrush, I'm gonna wait about 20 minutes or so in order for the silicone to set up a little better, and that way I'm not blowing everything around with the airbrush. We're getting there. Let's go to the airbrush. So now I'm going in with an alcohol-based ink. These are Pinata inks, but again, you can use whatever you have. I'm gonna do a little bit of brown on this to warm him up a little. This is Havana Brown from them. And I'm using a Pache H airbrush, which is my favorite. It's very black and white kind of right now, so just putting in a little bit of these richer tones. I'm kind of hitting that hairline a little bit. It's kind of shading, but it's also just like a general warmth that I'm putting on. I'm not so much changing the color. I am changing the color, but I'm changing the temperature. I'm making it a warmer piece. Let's go with a magenta. I'll do a little bit of this in the ears and around the eyes. I want the eyes to pop, so I like to put a little bit of color around them. Are the inside of wolves' ears pink? No, they're not. Why do I make them pink? Maybe because Easter bunnies? I have no idea why I do this. But I do, I like it. I think it makes them a little warmer. Just a hint of lip there. This is chili pepper red. This is gonna go on my mouth. I think it's important you make your monsters look like they're successful hunters. I'm gonna black the nose. Na-na! Let's take him back out to the other room. We'll let him dry. That's a pretty good looking werewolf. Oh. Go make stuff! Thank you guys for your support. We just hit 100,000 subscribers, and I thought if I build something kind of epic, I should give it to you guys that support us on Patreon. So we'll give this away on September 15th. That gives some people some time to join our Patreon for a chance to win. Tier level doesn't matter. All patrons are eligible, and the winner will be chosen at random. So head over to our Patreon and join now. As always, go make stuff.